These probable ministers have already started arriving in the national capital. Sources telling India Today over 20 new faces to be inducted. My colleague Rahul Srivastav has the latest.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to reshuffle his team. The rejig, 2 years after Modi's second term as Prime Minister began, comes almost at the halfway mark. The skipper is expected to bench many faces and field some super substitutes. Many may see a switch of roles once the squad is finalized. But now, all flights lead to Delhi. Aspirants are flocking to the national capital. From Jyotiraditya Scindia, who successfully pulled off a coup against Kamal Nath in Madhya Pradesh last year,
फिर बीजेपी कार्यालय भी मैं जा रहा हूँ.
to Sarbananda Sonowal, who gave up the Chief Minister's chair to Hemanta Biswa Sarma in Assam, and many others.
अरे विशेष देखिए, विशेष कुछ होगा तो जरूर बताएंगे. आपको कोई छुपा सकते हैं क्या?
India Today has learnt that over 20 new faces will be inducted into the cabinet. The rejig might include fresh faces from Bengal, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. With the UP elections just a few months away, alliance partners Apna Dal and Nishad Party might get birds. Social Justice Minister Thawar Chand Gehlot has been appointed the Karnataka governor. India Today also learns that the BJP's ally in Bihar, the JDU, is seeking 4 ministerial berths. Party chief Nitish Kumar is hopeful his demand will be met.
इसके बारे में जो हमने हम लोगों के पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष हैं, उन्हीं को इन सब चीजों के लिए अधिकार है. माननीय आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी चाहेंगे, उसी के हिसाब से जो भी होना होगा होगा.
The team composition, however, is a closely guarded secret known only to the big three of the BJP. All eyes are on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first cabinet reshuffle since 2019. Will he choose to inject fresh energy, or will political compulsions dictate team selection? The suspense is about to end. This report filed by Rahul Srivastava and Poulomi Saha in Delhi.
So let's raise the big questions as speculation builds up over Modi 2.0's first big cabinet reshuffle. Is the Modi government set for a complete makeover? Will political compulsions dictate the rejig? What will be the reshuffle's big message? Just some of the questions we're going to raise. Joining me now is Raj Chengappa, Group Editorial Director, publishing at India Today. Rajat Sethi, author and political analyst who's been close to the Bharatiya Janata Party. Javed Ansari, senior journalist, joins me. And Rahul Srivastav, our National Affairs Editor, joins me. Before I come to my other guest, let me come to Rahul because he's tracking the minute-to-minute updates on this. Rahul, 18 to 20 ministers to be brought in, is that correct? And does that include the likes of Jyotiraditya Scindia, Sarbanand Sonowal, almost for certain, all the gaps to be filled in? Or can we expect surprises with technocrats also being brought in from outside the political system?
Rajiv, first the statutory warning. When dealing with Narendra Modi's cabinet reshuffle, always be cautious. Say that this is what we are hearing. We are not very sure of it. Second, yes, one thing is very clear, Rajiv, 22 odd changes are likely. This is what sources have consistently been telling us, that this includes new faces being brought in, reshuffle, changes, people being dropped and brought in their places. The definite one element is also that the top 4 are not changing. That is home, finance, external affairs, and defense. That means it's not one of those big ticket changes. It could well be both in terms of an administrative course correction fix and also a political fix. Not only what has happened in the past in terms of past alliances like JDU and others, also future alliances, also future elections. But what one source very interestingly, as you said, is saying, be prepared for certain technocrat surprises. There's not just technocrat, also political surprises. The other important element in the last 1 hour, what I've gained is that this time around with somebody like B.L. Santosh as the organization secretary, the RSS consultation levels and suggestions have been much greater than in the past. Since the BJP realized it needs the RSS, these are tough times for the party. The RSS say it could well be weighing heavy this time around. Also, the non-performers element is very critical. There are some non-performers that the RSS feels, and also some performers where the RSS is saying there are some players, especially in UP Rajdeep, I don't want to take the names because it's yet to be confirmed fully, some very prominent leaders, they want them to be sent from insignificant ministries in Delhi to significant state like Uttar Pradesh to take on significant leaders like Mayawati and Priyanka.
Interesting what you're saying. So Uttar Pradesh, of course, is a big focal point for this government. Critical state for the BJP. Expect a pretty sizable representation from UP. There is a question, though, over whether this government needs a complete rejig or whether it needs, as Rahul is saying, only certain administrative changes. Rajat Sethi, critics will say this government desperately needs a talent infusion, especially in the key economic ministries. The economy is going to be critical in the next couple of years. Indeed, ministries like health with the COVID pandemic will also be important. Do you see that need to fill this government with fresh talent? Do you see that happening, Rajat Sethi?
I think when you point out at the economic scenario, I think there were significant amount of outlier events which did impact the economy. But I think the recovery and the outlook looks pretty smooth going forward. And I think most of the economic decisions are anyway taken by the PM himself. And he's pretty hands-on when it comes to economic issues and economic policies. So I think at the end of the day, I don't see much changes happening on the economic ministries, the finance or the commerce ministry. We do expect that things in the future with a fresh team will add more impetus to various subsectors and bring in more momentum into certain economies, which can bring in more jobs, etc. So we might see more talents coming into the other set of ministries where job aspects can be looked at. But the core economic ministries are pretty much working actively in the guidance of the Prime Minister's office.
Interesting. You know, this is a very PMO-centric government, Raj Chengappa, and therefore many believe that whatever reshuffle takes place, ultimately Prime Minister takes all the key calls. Is that the way to look at perhaps the Modi executive, the Modi Prime Ministership, or do you believe it is critical to infuse now fresh talents in certain ministries to avoid an element of sloth?
Well, I think, Rajdeep, if you looked at the way the second wave of the COVID was handled, you would immediately realize that there was a serious problem that had happened. His image and the Modi government's image was battered. There was very few ministers actually speaking out. You didn't feel the presence of the Modi government till about 2-3 weeks, and I think that was a lot of political time and capital lost before Mr. Modi took charge again and began to make the changes and give the assurance and confidence back to the people that he's in charge fully and he's able to deal with it. And that, of course, that confidence came along with the vaccines and all the controversy that surrounded it. So the cabinet reshuffle is about time. It should have happened much earlier. And it comes at several crucial stages. One, he has to improve the image of his government. He had started well in 2019. The COVID set it back seriously. So that has to be done. Two, there are compulsions that are critical. I don't agree with my other panelists that the economic ministry, yes, they have a very vocal finance minister. That's made a difference. But there are critical issues that need to be dealt with, and you need champions of this. If you're looking at energy, for instance, you need a champion for energy. One of the problems of the current ministry that is there is that there are over 10 cabinet ministers who are holding 2 or 3 portfolios. This is not a situation that is conducive to good governance. You need to distribute and create champions in the areas that you want to focus. And the focus is very clear. Health, as we know, is going to dominate us for the next 2 years, till be able to combat COVID fully. and apart from the other health infrastructure. So you need a dynamic. I'm not commenting
No,
on the
are
current
you
state.
are you saying that we need a new health minister, Mr. Chengappa?
That's right. No, I'm trying to sort of get away from these kind of this thing. I'm not pinpointing any particular minister.
But
or
you're saying we need a
performance.
focus.
Yes, I think you've got about 10 or 12 areas that you've identified that are key. Commerce, for instance. Why is it with Piyush Goyal? He's a highly competent minister. I'm not commenting on that. But commerce today is critical because of, if you have started with Atmanirbhar Bharat, you want India's exports to go up, then you need a full-time minister who can direct his energies and not be divided. You might have excellent ministers, I'm saying, who can do both. But ideally, you should have a champion that will take your commerce forward. Green energy, you made this a big issue. You need to move forward and say, okay, renewable energy shouldn't be, mixed with others. We've got a green program that is there. You saw Reliance, Mukesh Ambani talk about the hydrogen future that's there. There are tremendous things that are happening. Then you said electronics. Now, again, if you see, sort of reflection on the competence of the current minister. But he has 3 or 4 portfolios. If you want a champion of electronics, this is one area where you can get a technocrat in, which Rahul Srivastava mentioned. So I think there are 8 or 10 areas that are of critical focus, including employment. Now take skill development. Where is skill development gone? This was one of the major sort of programs that Mr. Modi had announced. Do you remember who the skill development ministers are? No reflection again to this, but education, skill development, these are critical areas as we go forward. There's a digital revolution happening. So you have to have focus on these things. And therefore, this is an opportunity, I believe, one, to reinvigorate the entire ministry that has been there. You've had a lot of ministers, there's been attrition. You need to bring in, there are other compulsions we need to do. We have these had, like Jyotiraditya Scindia and the newer entrants that need to come in, other ministers he's got, and of course the elections that are coming up in 2022. So every prime minister will have to do this kind of distribution, allies waiting there, JDU. So you will have some of those being allocated towards them. You'll try to use the brightest and best talent in those areas. But I think the larger focus is a major messaging, almost midterm through his second term, that he means business. I've got a whole new set of champions, apart from the old ones that are there. He's going to reinvigorate it. And this is the time, a turning point in his thing, to change the entire image, show that...
Let me call it, Mr. Chengappa, the 7-year itch. The Prime Minister has been in power for just over 7 years. You would expect the 7-year itch to result in major course correction. Javed Ansari, there are political compulsions. States that are going to the polls. Traditionally, Prime Ministers have been very careful balancing caste considerations, regional considerations, which states are going to the polls. Does Narendra Modi need to do that? He's not the leader of a coalition government, he's the leader of a majority government. Should he focus on just getting in the best talent? This is a great opportunity in that sense for Mr. Modi to redefine his prime ministership for the next 2.5 years. Do you believe he'll go that route, or will he focus on just filling in the political gaps?
Look, as far as Mr. Narendra Modi is concerned, my experience is that it's very hazardous to try and second guess him. Every time we've tried to do that, political pundits have been made to eat crow. I do believe, and I feel safe enough to suggest that this is more with the nature of an expansion than in the nature of a reshuffle. I would be very surprised if the top 5 or 4 are reshuffled. Yes, he might move he might have a new HRD minister. Rahul hinted at the fact that the RSS wants some prominent people who are dealing with insignificant ministries to move to UP and to specifically take on Priyanka and Mayawati. My guess is he had in mind Smriti Irani. Yes.
No, are you saying that Smriti Irani is likely to move out of the national capital and move to Uttar Pradesh?
I am taking a cue from what my learned colleague, Mr. Rahul Srivastava said.
Okay.
He knows the BJP a lot better than most of us do, and therefore it's a guess.
Okay.
I do believe that Jyotiraditya could either be fitted into commerce or into HRD. What the Prime Minister certainly needs to do is at this midway point of his second term, infuse greater energy and some fresh impetus, and this can come in if he brings in new faces. He also cannot be oblivious to the need to get the social messaging right to fill in some of the gaps as far as the states are concerned. And therefore, he will also need to correct some of the caste imbalance that has come about in the politics of Uttar Pradesh, where the BJP-led government has now come to be identified with a particular caste.
Right.
And other prominent castes like Brahmins are feeling left out. He'll have to probably address and redress that by giving them a few important positions in the central government. He will also have to take...
So you're saying that the caste and regional considerations will play a role, as always they do in cabinet reshuffles. But Rahul Srivastava, there is talk of the allies being accommodated this time. One of the criticisms of the Modi government has been that this is not an NDA government anymore. This is a BJP government. The Shiv Sena walked out eventually of this government. Now you've got the opportunity perhaps to accommodate the JDU of Nitish Kumar, which has been restive for a while. Do you see that happening? Do you see this time at least a little bit more space being given to the likes of Pashupati Paras, to Nitish Kumar's party, so that allies even in Uttar Pradesh are accommodated? There will be a compulsion to do that?
Rajdeep, see, the BJP, after losing the TDP, Shiv Sena and Akalis, has realized one thing, that an alliance partner just does not bring a bagload of aspirations to become a minister in Delhi. It realizes they bring a spectrum of political demographies with them, and that's what the BJP did with, for the first time you saw somebody of kind of BJP led by Narendra Modi. Had Nitish Kumar, who had gone away because of Narendra Modi, he comes back with the BJP in the NDA. Despite winning lesser seats, BJP keeps that promise, and Nitish Kumar is made the chief minister. That was, I think, a turning point. The BJP realized the value. Now in UP, it realizes a lesson that under Yogi Adityanath, the caste chemistry and that wonderful caste mosaic that the BJP had built, that helped the BJP win in 2017, 2019, was in tatters. Brahmins, even the die-hard supporters of BJP with not many options to go with, even the Brahmins were unhappy. Now that's where the BJP, if you see, is suddenly talking about Apna Dal, the Nishad Party and others. Why is it doing it? Because it realizes that on its own, it cannot get that fraction to win a state handsomely. The BJP doesn't want to win UP, only win it. It wants to win it handsomely for 2024. And that's where the allies come in. And that's why the BJP finds it easier to fix these political equations because, one, yes, there are too many elections in between, and also it's an election winning machinery, Rajdeep. It has always found political fixing easier than administrative.
Interesting the way you're putting it, because the fact is that there are states like West Bengal also where the BJP needs to accommodate leaders, particularly after the disarray the party finds itself after its defeat in Bengal. But Rajat Sethi, how do you respond to those who say at the end of the day the BJP has a talent deficit and therefore you need to draw in also talent from the outside? That this is a party which hasn't shown the same level of talent when it comes to governance. Many inexperienced ministers, many of whom have just not been up to it.
Well, Rajdeep, it's a subjective question. Bench strength-wise, I would say that BJP has a considerable bench strength. It's just that a lot of balancing acts have to be done when it comes to selecting few ministries, few ministers among the 350 odd MPs that the NDA has just in the Lok Sabha, but then also you have the Rajya Sabha. So looking at the whole thing, I think bench strength-wise, BJP isn't weak. It just needs to, reinforce that message that and that it can experiment with a delicate balance between bringing in technocrats and also giving political representation. Because at the end of the day, governments effectively have to represent the constituents that they have.
So will the BJP be comfortable with the technocrats coming in your view, Rajat? Will the BJP RSS leadership, is it comfortable with these technocrats coming in? Because the technocrat experience with the Modi government has been a rather mixed one.
Well, I think it is Prime Minister Modi who has brought technocrats to the absolute topmost ministries, including the Foreign Affairs Ministry. So, I mean, you look at urban affairs, we have all these ex-bureaucrats who are coming in and filling in the shoes, giant shoes rather, of ministries which were earlier held upon by very strong political leaders. So Prime Minister Modi has really allowed technocrats to come in and deliver the overall goals and objectives that he has set forth. So I think risk-wise, taking risks on technocrats, Prime Minister Modi has been miles ahead of any other ministry in the past. So I think that trend is a good trend and that should carry on. But again, at the end of the day, it is all about politics, and he has to do that balancing act of allowing maximum representation from the ground reflect in the ministry.
You're making an interesting observation, but Raj Chengappa, you said that this government needs new champions of key areas like energy, maybe the digital economy. Do you believe when you push champions, you need to give them autonomy? You need to empower them. You need to give them a sense that they are the people who are driving it. Now, there has been a sense, one view, criticism of Mr. Modi's prime ministership, that it is a very PMO-centric prime ministership. Do you believe that that needs to change also? If you're going to bring in new faces, which is urgently needed, are you, for example, the health ministry, if you're going to bring in a new health minister at a critical time like this, you're going to have to empower him. Decisions cannot only be taken by the PMO. Do you believe that the Prime Minister or indeed this government is ready to make that shift from a PMO-centric government to a more decentralized executive?
Well, I think the compulsions are there. There's no doubt about it. It is a highly centralized private PMO that is running this government. But if you talk around to them, the Prime Minister does give time to a lot of ministers to come and interact and listen to them and then execute things. So it is imperative on the individual ministers to take the initiative and rather than work under the shadow of the Prime Minister. I mean, fair enough, whether it's in the US or in UK and everything else, obviously the leader dominates the entire discussion, and it is his, confidence and his clarity and everything else that will guide it. But you take the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar has moved around, he has made, has tried to do things.
No, but his track record also is mixed. Let's be very clear. Mr. Jaishankar has not had some smooth landing. He's not been some, star or a champion minister in any form.
My larger point is this, Rajdeep, that you can judge and say based on whatever it is. The point is you can take an active interest in your ministry and project whatever you want to do. I mean, it doesn't, Nirmala Sitharaman, for instance, talks a lot about the finance ministry, and she doesn't, necessarily have to keep a low profile on any of these things. You've seen Rajnath Singh do this. So what I'm saying is you need more vocal ministers to come back. They come into the fray. You need to see a lot more people talking about the work that they're doing. If you look at what has happened in the last 2 years, for whatever reason, could be COVID and everything else, there's been a large silence on a whole range of ministries. They're not talking about the work that they're doing. Now, when I talk about champions, take a look at privatization. Now, this is a big move by the Modi government in the budget that was announced in 2021. Now, who should champion that? You need a minister that will be for disinvestment, that will have all the political clout to go ahead and do it. Otherwise, you will again, if this was a major move of yours, you will again start,
have a minister are you saying, forget disinvestment, call him a minister for privatization?
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to be politically correct, you'll say disinvestment because you don't want to use the word private as its own sort of this thing. But look, you need, when I talked about champions, you need, once Mr. Modi has given the vision, which he has, look, let's acknowledge that the reform process that he's initiated in his second term is vast. Whether you look at coal mining, whether you look at the opening of the defense sector, you look at the electronic sector, you look at everything else, there has been a whole a lot of reforms that have been brought in, right? You could call it the second phase of reforms. Who's to implement that at a critical time where jobs is the number one priority, right? So you need to expand industry. Now, someone who can handle that entire process of pushing forward, and it requires individual ministers. So if you're taking, if you're taking for environment and green, this thing, you need a powerful minister that will direct and say, look, this is my approach to all these issues. Climate change is a big issue.
You're saying now that we need ministers who will execute. Now you need key ministers who will execute the so-called second generation of reforms that the Prime Minister claims are in a way critical, integral to his vision of the future. Let's leave it there. Raj Chenappa. I think we'll have more to talk about. You know, whenever there's a cabinet reshuffle, we have a lot of airtime given to it. So don't worry, we'll have lots to talk about. Who are going to be the new champions of Mr. Modi's cabinet? We'll have to wait and see. Interesting. Smriti Irani moving to Uttar Pradesh could be a possibility, is the suggestion being made. Thank you all very much for joining me on what's likely to happen tomorrow. Now, that's what's likely to happen tomorrow. What about today? Today was a face